Hi everybody, I'm Veerle. I'm a vet that works in a rehab centre. I use acupuncture, chiropractic and herbal supplements to treat my patients. A lot of my patients are arthritic, which we know is a multifactorial disease. And I have with me Camilla, who's one of our hydrotherapists, who will also have some opinions on how we actually treat animals and how we assess our patients. So one of the questions I want to ask her is, when a patient comes in after they've had their first treatment, the next time they come in, what are really important things for you to know even before you start the next treatment, and what might be undervalued by clients as information? Which things are important for you?
So before each session, we will ask the client how their animal's been, how their dog's been, just to see how they have reacted, what their recovery period's been. Did they take longer, shorter? Were they stiffer, less stiff? What sort of were the activity level after as well? Some dogs get very excited and can do better. Some obviously take a bit longer to recover and a bit sleepy. We have to know that information. It's really important because the owner is with the dog for the whole recovery period. It's not just the 10 minutes walking them out. It's when we take them out and they're at home, and it takes a few days for some dogs, and so it's really important for us to adjust our sessions on how they then recover and things like that, because if they have reacted positively or negatively, it's how we move forward in our recovery plan, which is where we also let you know as well by taking videos, photos, anything like that's really helpful.
Yeah,
that's what we use. How about you? What do you find for the first sort of 5-10 minutes of a consultation, the most important things to go over? Is there anything that's most helpful for you?
so as a vet, we of course get all the information that the dog is getting stiff, struggling to get in the sofa, but I think the devil is in the details. So the little things are very important to me. Is the slight changes in behaviors, coat changes are important, anxiety levels can go up, sleep patterns can get disturbed, they get unsettled. Pain is not necessarily always measured in the same way with every patient, so I always think little details can lead to big changes later on. So I think clients really underestimate that giving us loads of information is not a bad thing, because we are trained to extract from these things what we need to make a proper assessment. I love diaries. If people give me 2 pages with little details, even if I don't necessarily have time to read them in that consult, I will log them. I might take a picture, store it on file, so that if further down the line there's a pattern, we can see it emerge, and we can also pick up on other issues that might be running alongside it, and this is where also the information I get from hydrotherapists I work with are very important. When they say, we don't entirely think this is right, and it might not be an increased lameness, it might just be very subtle changes, it's very important to feed that information to your vet so they can make a decision based on that. And I think the diaries I think are very important for me, the kind of little details.
Yeah, we always encourage a lot of our clients to, anything they notice and sort of any just gut instincts. Obviously you know your dog best, you spend the most amount of time with them, so anything you notice, even if it doesn't seem relevant, for example there's a lameness issue and they start to go off their food, it can, like you said, there's stuff running alongside and it can work really well, and that's where, because we're for most cases a multidisciplinary team, so we've got you, we've got hydrotherapists, physios, massage therapists, lots of different people involved, and so as long as we talk back to each other, we have hydrotherapy reports, anything like that, and if it's just been mentioned and written down somewhere at any of these sessions, it can be picked up on, and once you get a pattern, it can be much easier to jump on stuff quicker.
And then you can measure progress that way as well. You can measure change in the negative way, but you can also measure progress in these reports. So I think reporting, communication is key.
Really important. What are the things that you would say you would mainly look for? Is it specifically with arthritis, is it more like pain-wise, or what are signs of that to look for? But then also are there other things that might not seem as necessary that still are coming to you as a vet?
Yeah, so I look a lot at stress signals. So when they walk into the room, I see how they move, I see how they behave towards me, even approaching them for touch. If there's a lot of stress signals, their behavior with other dogs in the household or other dogs on walks, I think is very important. Of course, you do your range of movement, you do your pain assessment, but it's really the little details. And I think over grooming is something I think we see a lot as well in practice, where they start licking certain areas of their legs, and that can be that there's an underlying pain issue there.
Yeah, definitely. I think we, as hydrotherapists, before our sessions, we always obviously do a small gait analysis before we walk in anyway. But any things that we find interesting are, like I said, if they were tired or not after any sessions previously, obviously I haven't had any sessions yet, then it would be sort of if there's any particular stiffness. A lot of stuff works in compensatory issues with lameness and arthritis, and it's obviously something that we have to manage quite well. Arthritis is a very broad spectrum, and we see very young dogs that have it and also very old dogs that have it, and sometimes it can be chronic, and sometimes if it's well managed from a young age, it really can be controlled quite well. But noticing those changes, and when it goes from a small issue that we're managing well in a young dog, obviously as they age and progress, it can also progress as well. So trying to keep them as comfortable as possible, also noticing when those changes happen.
Yeah, and adapt your treatment progress. It's constantly readapt what you do, readapt what you do at home, rethink what you do at home, see what sometimes a glaringly obvious thing happens when you just take a step back and look at what's actually going on. Because sometimes you're too close to actually see the real issue. I always say, if the neighbors think that the dog's is looking a lot better, that's when I know I've done a good job with the neighbor, without knowing that you've actually done a change in the treatment. If they mention, oh, he's looking a bit better, or he or she is looking a bit better today, then I'm happy.